Okay, another Highland League Weekly Friday preview show ahead of this weekend's Breedon Highland League action. The big games keep coming. There's a game this evening, rare Friday night game between Banks of D and Fraserburgh at Spain Park. Interesting one, this?
It is. Obviously the two sides have met on Tuesday night as well in the Aberdeenshire Shield, and if you speak to players, managers, etc., nobody likes having those two games back to back because generally you never get the same outcome twice, or very seldom. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
A big test for Fraserburgh for me. I think Banks of D, as we know, have been so good at Spain Park, but if Fraserburgh are going to live up to their manager's demand to get their season up and running and get a run together, this is a venue and a team they've really got to look and beat tonight, I think.
Yeah, interesting. We'll have highlights from that on Monday's Highland League Weekly. But yeah, another test of Banks of D's credentials, I suppose. Brecon City against Keith kicks off this Saturday card. I suppose for Brecon it's just same again, isn't it? Hopefully, well, they'll be hoping to get another 3 points on the board. Keith will be hoping, I suppose, that they show they can compete in the game.
Yeah, I think so. Keith, you're hoping to not sort of be overwhelmed, obviously, early doors, which Brecon can sometimes do to teams, but Keith have shown they've got goals on their side, and I think the sort of forward players have got, the likes of Kieran Mooney, obviously got a hat-trick against Strathspey, but Matthew Tuch as well, and these sort of players in the forward areas are also got a lot of energy and pace, and I think you need that to try and get in behind Brecon and try and put them under some pressure. And I mean, Huntley showed last week that you can, cause Brecon problems here and there. So I think Keith will probably be looking along similar lines to try and do that. But obviously, I think goes without saying almost as league leaders and 28 points out of 30, you'd have Brecon as favourites to start with, and most people would expect him to win.
Clachnacuddin against Lossiemouth. I suppose Lossiemouth, for me, maybe at this point in time, going to this one as marginal favourites, but we know what Clach can do. Clach have got, they've had decent performances at points over the last few weeks against Brora, first half against Buckie, but without getting the results. How do you see this one going?
This is a tight one, I think. Lossie will be buoyant after their first away win of the season, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on going up to Inverness. But Clach need a result at this point. I think they need to bounce back. They had a sore one at Belsley against Fraserburgh, and it's the stage is set for a cracker here, I think.
I mean, Clach, they've had a lot of plaudits at times from, myself included, probably more than anybody. But but if you look at Jordan McDonald's spoken about it as well. If you look at the league table in their third bottom, he doesn't think they should be anywhere near that, and it's time to start putting results on the board and sort of getting rid of the hard luck stories to an extent. And this is a game where they'd be looking to do that. But I mean, Lossie, they've found a really good sort of run of form at the minute. The last couple of months I've been really impressed with them. We've seen them obviously in the cameras previously putting 5 past Nairn, and with the options Joe Russell's got as well in terms of sort of rotating his forward players, and he's always got players with a bit of pace and skill and energy he can put on as well in games from the bench. I think Lossie, they're a tricky proposition for anybody at the moment to play.
Clachnacuddin and Lossiemouth is our other highlights game. That's the one we'll have reaction as well as highlights from on Monday, so an intriguing one, and we'll give you the best of the action at 7 p.m. on Monday in the Press and Journal. Forest Mechanics against Devon Vale. Forest looking to bounce back, 2-0 defeat for Martin last weekend, but Devon Vale, as we seem to speak about every week, decent enough, just tend to concede goals at the wrong times, tend to not be as clinical as I think Craig Stewart would like them to be, but I think they're probably capable of winning this one, but probably, going to Mossett Park, they're probably going as underdogs.
Yeah, I think Forest would fancy their chances at home, but the Vale are due a result actually. The way they're playing, I think they're due one somewhere. Whether it's going to be up at the Cans, I don't know, because as we're saying, Forest have got their own points to chase here, given the struggles they've had in recent weeks. But yeah, it's another a close one. This one again.
I mean, Craig Stewart said it after Devon Vale's game last weekend that he thinks somebody will probably be on the end of a bit of a doing from them at some stage if they can start putting the ball in the net. So I suppose Vale supporters will be hoping that's this week.
Yeah. Forest don't win that one, Forest lose that one. Lossiemouth could be up to 8, depending on what happens at Clack. Inverurie, Huntly. Inverurie, I suppose, looking to build a bit of a winning run, having managed to win at Wick last weekend. Huntly, though, the form team in the division at the moment, perhaps. One of the form teams, certainly.
At the risk of sounding like a broken record and like I'm picking on Inverurie at this point, it depends on which Locos team we get. But Huntly should be going there feeling they've got the bit between their teeth now. 10 points out of 12, as Callum mentioned in the Monday show. But Locos had a great result up at Wick, so again, a tight one to call, but it'll be a feisty one. We know what a Locos Huntly game's like.
Oh, those games are always feisty, that's for sure. But again, both teams playing in the Aberdeenshire Shield as well on Wednesday, so it's a quick turnaround and maybe might see a few changes for both sides for that. We'll see. And I mean, there's sort of lots of familiarity. Logan Johnson and Fergus Alberts obviously went one way in the summer down to Harlow Park, and Ross Still and James Connolly have gone the other way, so maybe a point to prove for some of those guys potentially.
Nairn County against Brora Rangers. Friends become managerial foes for Stephen Mackay and Craig Campbell, but in all seriousness, this probably isn't the game Nairn want at the moment, is it?
Probably not, because it's a Brora team that will be really fired up to bounce back after a really disappointing 3-0 home defeat to Brechin in the top of the table clash. But if there's somebody that knows all about Brora, it's Stephen Mackay.
By the same token though, I mean, you can say not the game they want, but being honest, I mean, you look at Nairn's season so far, they haven't won a game, so really there's not any game.
They don't want to play anyone's
no,
Give us a bye.
You know what I mean? There's not a game Nairn could play where you'd go, well, they'll look at that and go, that's a stick on 3 points. You know, it's been a tough season for them. So I mean, if they're going to sort of turn things around and get that win and get going, where better than against one of the top sides in the league.
So just to be clear, you're tipping Nairn to beat Brora here, Callum?
No, but I'm just playing devil's advocate. I think if you're going to push me for a prediction, I would be going for an away win. But
I'm sure the biggest concern, as we discussed on Monday, for Nairn is, they've clearly got ability, but it's, when they concede, it's not maybe things falling apart a little bit. It's like just,
and confidence is shot. It's been dented big time. And it has to change at some point, but I don't think it'll be this weekend. No.
Rothes against Buckie Thistle. Buckie, of course, favourites the way the things have gone this season, but interesting. Rothes got a win, kept a clean sheet last weekend.
Rothes have been, if maybe bogey teams a bit far, but they've always in recent times been difficult opposition for Buckie. They were the same fixture in the league at McKessick Park last season. Rothes won 2-0, and then if we go rewind, Highland League Cup coming back after COVID, the final, Rothes with 10 men won that game as well. Even the league game at Buckie last season was 2-1, and it took one of the goals of the season for Kyle McLeod to get Buckie over the line that night. So I think it's one of them where I think I spoke on Monday as well about like styles and the way teams play and how it maybe can suit one. I think this is the sort of game that kind of traditionally has suited Rothes because they're disciplined, organised, and the way Ross Jack has been playing, they can sort of soak up pressure and try to hit Buckie on the counter, and I'd imagine that's what they'll be looking to do on Saturday in this game. This
is the sort of game that Ross Jack revels in. I always think it is.
You're right.
It's the one where everyone's looking at the opposition thinking, well, they're going to go and win this, and he has his team super organised, well structured, and just set up perfectly to be a real thorn in the backside.
The thing with this game as well is if you're there watching, the two dugouts, there's always plenty of back and forth with them Rothers-Buckie games, but as much as that, during the 90 minutes it's sort of all go, but afterwards, well, before and after, I know there is in terms of how they set their sides up, and sort of there's great respect between Graham Stewart and Ross Jark as well, but during the 90 minutes it'll be anything goes, I'm sure.
Okay, so tight one anticipated, so we now know what's going to happen in that game. Strathspey, Thistle, Turriff United. Can Strathspey show any signs of life in this one?
It's a game really where I can't say it's must win, because it's clearly not at this stage of the season. That would be, but the point I would make is from a Strathspey perspective, this is a game where, I mean, Turriff have obviously improved this season, they've had a good start, but a game where Strathspey really need to try and make it count and take something out of it. I mean, it's been a tough couple of weeks. They've lost 17 goals in two games, which doesn't help anyone's confidence. But I think they need to try and find something. And I mean, because when we saw against Inverurie, 2-2 draw at home, can they go and play in a similar manner and cause Turriff problems and get a result? Because as much as you may be looking at the scores racked up, Strathspey, if they could win on Saturday, they could potentially be off the bottom. They're only 2 points behind Nairn, so I just think with Strathspey, it's one result potentially could just spark things for them and give everyone a wee bit of confidence and give them that lift that they need.
We've given Turriff plenty of praise, but is it 3 league losses in a row now for Turriff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Buckie, Fraserburgh, and at the weekend there.
Lossie
at
home.
Yes.
They don't allow a run like that to be prolonged any longer than it has to, do they?
No.
Given how well they've started the season.
No, and they'll be looking at what Keith have done and thinking, well, here's a chance for us to get going again. But yeah, I mean, Strathspey's need is desperate, but Turriff will have their own motivation here to try and get a win and get going again.
Wick, Farmartin United, the final game to discuss from this weekend's card. Inverurie went up to Wick and won last weekend. Can Farmartin match them, or we know it's probably unlikely with Wick's home record this season they're going to lose 2 in the spin?
It depends on personnel, I would say.
Both managers could be doing with getting 1 or 2 players back. They've both kind of been pretty short on numbers for most of this season. Again, Wick, I probably sound like a broken record, but in that sort of number 9 position, I mean, Gordon McNabb's done well when he's played there, but he's been missing and things, and sort of players filling in. It's not easy, and I mean, Gary Manson will be hoping he doesn't have to play himself. Not that he's still very much capable of doing a job, but I think he would be the first to tell you that he prefers to be on the side, because you obviously get a clearer picture of what's happening and it's easier to make changes than if you're sort of in the thick of the action as well. But for Martin though, they've had really good start overall. They're in a good position up near the top, and these are the sort of games I think Stuart Anderson will be saying they can make a big difference. You need to keep the good run we've had going, and when they can away from home get a win over the course of a season, if you can pick up points in these sort of maybe tricky games on paper, it can take you a long way.
Right, so a reminder then of the games we'll be featuring on Monday's Highland League Weekly. Clachnacuddin and Lossiemouth is the main game. We'll have reaction to that one as well, and we'll also have secondary highlights of Banks of D against Fraserburgh from Friday. So see you then.